computer. So one thing I think may relate to this is that in Torah, it talks about how a man should not look like a woman, or a woman should not look like a man or act like, right?
Right.
But I think there's some cultural things that go along with this, like Scottish kilts, right? In America, if a guy wears a dress, which or skirt, I think is the right word, it's like you're trying to look like a girl, right? But in Scotland, like bagpipers, they wear the kilt, which is basically a skirt in
Right. I
U.S.
mean,
culture.
you've got your tunics and your togas and you got your kilts and you got your sarongs. I guess sarong. I don't know if sarongs are specifically to females, but you know,
I'm not familiar with that one, but
it's like it's a Indian uh, clothing. I think it's
okay,
Indian,
okay.
or it could be Polynesian. But it's a, and I'm probably getting it wrong. But there's a wraparound um, that's very much like a kilt in Polynesian cultures. Um,
Oh yeah, I know Polynesians have something like a kilt. I don't remember what they call it, but now that you mention it, I do kind of recall that.
and honestly, I mean, it's acceptable for men to wear kilts even in America. It's just, don't expect us to think that you're a guy if you're wearing pink polka dots
Yeah, well, pink used to
stuff.
be a guy's color, but that's what I'm kind of saying is I think it's somewhat cultural, that
Right.
command. You got to take culture into account because, like in the apostles' days, they didn't have pants. So in today's standard, they were wearing dresses almost, right?
Hmm.
So I do think there's some cultural context to it,
Well,
but
gird your loins basically means take that skirt
skirt
and
and pull it
tie
up.
it into a
Yeah.
knot,
Yeah,
so
so
that you can
basically
get around.
turn it into like really short shorts.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, so though one thing like in Argentina,
Hmm.
uh, and they do this to be funny, but guys dress up as intentionally to look like women, and I think that's actually a direct breaking of that commandment because they're doing it to look like the other sex. Where like
So they're
kilts, that's their culture to.
they're doing drag queen stuff. Okay.
Yes, they're doing drag queen, and they're doing it to try to be funny, but they're trying to do, they're being a drag queen on purpose, and I think that's a breaking of that commandment. Where a kilt is, that's just the culture. Guys wore that, right? Um, so,
Well, you got to do something with that 9 yards. You know, I mean, the saying "whole 9 yards" was referring to the yardage that they would use of this blanket, basically. That they would just wrap around. It was like they literally
uh,
took the tent around. It wasn't just a kilt. It was the whole 9 yards. It was a tent. It was a sleeping bag. It was it was
well, that I didn't know that, but that makes sense because modern society, especially electricity and sewing machines, has made sewing a lot more doable than it was in the
right.
older days. Um, and so a
And of
lot of
course,
things
you
have
don't have
changed
to
because
live
of
in
that.
your kilt anymore either. So,
Oh yeah, well, back in the old days, they had like one nice pair of clothes, and then they lived in one other, right?
hmm.
The modern conveniences have changed the culture in a lot of areas,
Mm,
some good and some bad, right?
yeah.
Um, but anyways, just it's just weird. I, it's just, I think some of that's one that I think is somewhat based on culture and not like an absolute, which is generally speaking not something I tend to say, but I think that one kind of leans towards that. And that might be because I don't know the word well enough, but I think we both agreed that the apostles wore basically dresses compared to today's standards, right? I mean, they didn't call it a dress then, but yeah.
Right. I think it was what, robes or
Yeah, I
something.
think they called it robes.
Who knows? I mean, they
What?
You know, we have some of the most interesting conversations. It's like this week, fashion.
Oh man, fashion today is crazy. But
Mm.
anyways, today's fashion, I think some of the things I've seen is that they're actually trying to make men look like girls, and I am not going to do any of that.
They have utterly made a push for, wow. I mean, did you know that trans, most transitions, when you're talking gender transitions,
Okay,
like almost 75% of them are actually girls to men?
I didn't know that.
We have somewhere along the line, as a society, we have told women they're no good. You don't want to do you don't want to do
Sure, sure. We've
what,
degraded them in lots of various ways. I mean, there's
uh,
a song about it. I can do what you can do better, or something like that. I think is.
oh, hi to your kiddo there.
Oh, hi TC. Hold on 1 minute.
Oh,
Oh, my wife and I take turns putting him to bed.
mm,
And if it wasn't for this, it'd be my turn. He's like, I want you to take me to bed. And I'm like, not
well,
tonight,
if
tomorrow.
you want to go ahead and take some time to do that.
No,
I mean,
he takes a while because he wants
oh, okay.
to
He needs that attention.
play,
Of
and then
course.
I lay with him, next to him. That sounds
And
better.
read
I lay
stories and
next
stuff.
to him for a while, so it takes a while. And
Yeah.
I I do it almost every other night,
Mm-hmm.
except when this happens, and then my wife does twice in a night, so I can do this, or 2 nights in a row. That time wrong. But anyways, he's like,
Well, tell her thank you for me. I appreciate. Have you already done sacrament?
I can do it for you. I'll
I'll need to go get the stuff really
Okay,
quick.
I'm gonna pause because I'd rather not
Okay.
record that part.
Not a problem.
So, we can look at Jacob too if you want, or we can talk about other things.
Well, let me go look that up.
All right.
I'm gonna be
Well,
stuck using the internet edition if you don't mind. I'm
oh,
sorry.
that's fine. In fact, I'm gonna share my screen for a minute because
Okay.
um, I have. You'll see parts of a post I've been working on off and on. I worked on it a lot at the beginning of the year,
Mm-hmm.
but then I got tired because I I worked all night, multiple nights on it, and it wore me out. But I have things in there that would be good to share for this conversation. So let me
Okay.
share my screen. Oh, wait, let's see. Let me do this first. Because that section actually has chiasm and some other things. But anyways, listen.
What did you call it? Kite?
Chiasm, it's the ABVA structure.
Oh, okay.
Um, wait a minute. Oh,
The
that's
CHI. Is that what you mean by Chi?
chiasms. I may be saying it wrong. Um, in fact, I wouldn't doubt that I am saying it wrong. But here, let me get. Where's- Okay, so right here's my summary one. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so
Um, Let me bring up
sure, sure, yeah.
so I can like have comparison. Uh,
So if you don't have it, the LDS Gospel Library app is nicer than their web page.
yeah, but I don't have it open right at the moment.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm about to get to it. So it was in Jacob?
Yeah, Jacob 2, it's the last half that deals with this issue. The verse you were quoting is verse 30, and we can talk about the Reed Smoot case also, which the LDS quote-unquote prophet at the time says that the Book of Mormon only teaches against polygamy. So either he was a liar, or, well, I do think he's a liar, but I don't think he lied in
Oh, I see what you're
court.
saying.
He didn't, because although he was honest in court, though, on lots of things that he didn't want to be. But anyways.
So this right here, it seems to be, perhaps I read it, misread it, because it seems to be of the, let's see if I can find my, here we go. It seems to be reinforcing the idea of one man, one wife, to raise up a righteous generation. It looks
Correct.
like
And we can get in
I
some of
have
the
misread
details on
that.
that. Because 30 has allusions to other verses in the Book of Mormon that teach that. That, like Mosiah 15, without looking at my notes, is a place on that when he, is sacrificed, he shall see his seed. And his seed are those who follow the prophets and are righteous. And there's other parts that go along with this, but yes.
Hang on one sec. You might want to pause.
Okay, I'll pause it. Well, let me get back to the app so I can do that.
You're gonna do the marshmallow thing.
Right now?
Well, I mean, start at 9:30. What you doing?
Oh, I usually did this stuff, religious studies thing, on Sundays, on occasional Sundays,
Okay.
but he also does them on Wednesdays.
Well, I change when I do it. It's going to be on Fridays in a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Camping's thing tonight,
You what?
right? We have camping's thing tonight, right?
Well, do we have all the equipment and all the resources to do that? Have we tested the burner? Do you want to test the burner to see if it'll even light? I mean, wasn't it knocked down and stuff? Or was it no? Okay. All right. Well, I guess, oh, what time is it now? All right. So I guess I'm going to have to leave at about 9:45.
How long is that? I'm on a different time zone as you.
That's true. It's 9:26 now. I don't
Okay.
know if that's going to give, I know that that's not going
Well,
to
we
give
can
you.
start and we can do more later. That's fine. Because,
Okay.
I'll stay up for a little bit later if you're going to come back, if you want to do that. But this could at least give you a start of what I'm thinking on this issue anyways.
Okay.
So I'm going to hit resume. Is that okay?
Okay. Oh,
So,
wait, one sec. Wait,
oh,
sorry.
no, that's fine. I just paused.
Okay. So I was just talking with Steve, and we'll be done with 9:45. Okay.
9:45.
Yes. And I will come out at that point. You guys just go ahead and start without me, and I'll just come out.
Okay, that turn out, that turn out.
Okay. There's going to be a little bit of noise in the background for just a few more minutes, but if you want to start, I guess you can.
That's fine. So the first part of Jacob too is, condemning seeking after riches, which is actually a good one. It goes against the prosperity gospel, which we see in the LDS church some, right? But the last half is condemning of polygamy. And also, I think a lot of people don't realize this. It's at least through verse 35, it's all a thus saith the Lord, except a little header from Jacob saying this is from God.
Okay.
But one thing, when I was working on this, and you can see here, and we can go verify this if you want. So I have summary here, and then I get into the details here, and we can get into both. But let's look at the summary first. But there's two chiasms. And the first one goes A, B, C, D, and then D, C, B, A. And the next one's A, B, C, D, C, B, A. Now, it's interesting to me that these are two chiasms that are complementary to each other, meaning it's the same A, B, C's, and D's. Also, one thing, I forget the verse, I can find it for you if you want, but in one of the early verses, the Lord, where Jacob's quoting the Lord, basically says that you're using a misunderstanding from these, what happened, as an excuse to do your unrighteousness. That's not an exact quote, but that's the idea that's there. I'd have to find the exact quote if you're worried about it. And then also one thing that's interesting with verse 30, which is a key one that people like to talk about. We talked about it a little bit already, but the last part of 30 is these things. Now, it's interesting, like in verse 34, as you can see right here, things is used again, and it's in a negative context. The things that it's referring to is what it's condemning Solomon and David for doing. It's the many wives, and there things is in this thus saith the Lord three times, if I remember.
Wasn't the condemnation against David and particularly against Solomon because of the foreign women? It was the, I mean, there was an admonition to.
As far as I know, on David repented of having multiple wives. I can look up the verse, but it says that he never went to them again, any of them.
Well, after his goof-off with I'm not even saying that word right, but after his goof with Bathsheba, he was punished by having all those wives and concubines taken away from him. But Solomon, I think the admonishment was particularly to Solomon, because Solomon, in his marrying all these foreign women that brought in foreign religious influences and corrupted him to, bow down at their altars and stuff.
Yeah, was the big problem for Solomon.
That was the big problem. That was the downfall. And
well, that's part of it. I wouldn't say that's all of it, because actually in Torah, I don't remember where, we can find it if you're worried about it. It says that kings should not multiply wives, and David and Solomon both did that.
Right.
One thing that, an interesting point, and I can give you the link to it. But 119 came out with a video after I started working on this post I was sharing with you about Jacob 2, about polygamy, and it brings out how there's a Hebrew idiom that's mistranslated when people translate it regarding polygamy, but they translate it correctly when dealing with other things. And so I'm serious here.
I believe you. I do.
I'll give the link to the video I probably don't have time to find it with the amount of little time that you have right now, but I'll put it in the link in the description of the upload on YouTube I do.
Okay.
And you see it there, but it goes point by point the last half of Jacob 2 and 1835 D&C, 101, the one anti-polygamy section that the LDS Church removed. In fact, they're the only mainstream that removed it, right? Actually goes right along with what 1 in 19 Ministries is teaching that the Torah says about polygamy. Jacob 2 doesn't have consequences. Torah doesn't have consequences. I mean, it goes point by point. It's completely following it. It's just there's a mistranslation that has really made a lot of people stumble on this issue. And that's one thing. I was so happy when I saw that after I started working on this post. It was like a month into it or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Because it completely validated that and some other things that I believe I received from God, and they kind of confirmed it, like Ruth. So people say there's examples, or let me start this again. Sorry, I didn't come out the best. But when I was looking more into this issue, God told me that Ruth is an example that of the Levirate law. I don't know if you know what the Levirate law is.
Isn't that where you marry your
Brothers.
so your brother is supposed to marry your wife if you pass
Yeah,
away for the sake of
children.
remembrance and name.
Right. But there's parts of it that a lot of people don't like to bring up because LDSites, Brighamites like to use that as in justification for polygamy. It's not, because it's only if the wife had no children. If the wife had children, that does not apply.
Right.
But Ruth and Boaz, I hope I'm remembering his name right. I'm pretty sure I am.
It is correct. You're
Okay,
correct.
that's good. But he had to go through steps because it's not just brother, it's the closest kin. Because
Right.
Boaz was not the brother. He was the closest. He was I think the
He
second.
wasn't actually even the closest kin.
He was the second closest. And this is where it
Right.
deals with the story here. But the closest of kin couldn't take her because he would have been, I forget the word in the King James, but it would have defiled him. Meaning, and I take that to be that he already had a wife.
It's possible. I don't know.
But the
I do
119
know.
Ministries brings out how they've done their research and he did have a wife. So it goes along with what I believe God told me on it and he told me to go look into Ruth on it. But anyways, so I feel somewhat validated with that. And when I finish that post, I'm going to be including that in some other things also, because there's some people that claim that Lehi lived the Levirate law with the other father that died's wife. I'm forgetting the name right now. Dang it. You know how Nephi went back to get wives, and he brought, I think it's First Nephi 8. Let me look.
He brought like Ishmael's. No. Was it Ishmael's?
Yeah, I think it's.
I know Ishmael was either Ishmael was the servant of Laban, or it was the friend who had daughters.
Oh, it's Ishmael. I just checked. It's First Nephi 7. Yeah, some of the names I get a little confused on, but yeah, Ishmael. So there's someone has stated that Ishmael died, and then Lehi did the Levirate law with Ishmael's wife, and he has some texts in the Book of Mormon he thinks supports that, but I have texts in the Book of Mormon that shows that he's doing a confirmation bias on it, and I'll be bringing that in also, and also the Isaiah chapter about cleaning unto 7 women has to do with Deuteronomy 28, and get their own garments. Those who go after their own garments don't go after God's ways. Anyways, there's a lot that goes into some of these things, and
Right.
I was putting a lot of effort into it, but then
So
I got drained on it, to be honest, because all the work I put into it. Because
it is a lot of work. I mean, trying to put together an understanding that isn't through the lens of man, of the past is extremely difficult.
Oh yeah, and I try to be very careful, and I don't know if you've looked at some of my posts. I
I've
try
seen
to
a
be,
few.
I quote, I think you would agree, I quote the scriptures a lot. I give a little commentary, and then here's the scripture that shows what basically I'm showing, and I try to just tie the scriptures together, and that's what I try to
Right.
do. And so it, it's draining. It can be. Some have been more draining than others, but the one that I've been working on for the Jacob 2 one, it was draining, and I had to take a break. And I need to get back to it. I have 2 or 3 I want to do first that aren't going to be so big, and one I hope to have done on Friday. But anyways, when those 2 or 3 are done, I'm going to go back to that one because I need to finish it, and I know I do. But there's a lot of key points to it, and a lot of the little phrases in it, we could even, I could give you some insights if you wanted what I'm going to bring in, but or we could just go back to the Jacob 2 and look at some of those verses. It's up to you.
No, I'm good. I think it was
Oh,
good that I was.
real quick, before I close though, if you look at these JSTs, they're pretty much condemning polygamy. On top of where I said that, David repented of his polygamy. And these are JSTs, meaning, Joseph Smith translations, right? It's pretty condemning of polygamy.
How does
If you want, I can get it up at where.
okay? I need some clarification on this.
Sure.
So on the Joseph Smith translation, 2 Samuel,
Okay.
12:13, the first scripture you have here in your list,
Okay.
where it says, Nathan said unto David, the Lord also has not put away thy sin, that thou shalt not die.
Yeah.
What?
Okay. So that does seem a little weird now so maybe I copied it wrong. Because here, let me get my Kindle app up. Hold on.
So I know that David came along after Moses, and technically David had done some bad shit. Excuse my language.
Sure. He wasn't perfect like some Jews like
But
to
the
claim.
whole the taking of Bathsheba in the city was a stonable offense.
Oh yeah.
And as far as I can tell, David never was stoned, even though he earned it.
So there's a lot of just because something is stonable event or sin doesn't mean it actually happens. There's a process to that, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. You can't just go out and stone them yourself. You have to go through the judges, and a lot of people forget
Right,
that.
but
And then also there's lots of mercy that gets applied to those capital offenses because they work with you. And also in the Book of Mormon, a capital offense is going against your country, okay? But is it 35:5 and 6? It shows, and then I can look it up the verse or chapters exactly. If those aren't it, but I think it's 5 and 6. It shows when they're working with the Lamanites and other dissenters of that have joined the Gadiantans, if I remember correctly. If they repented of their sin and covenanted never to do it again, they let them free. In fact, they did more than just let them free. They gave them land. But the main thing I'm trying to bring out is the mercy that they showed those who repented. But those who did not repent received the capital punishment and were killed. And so there's a lot
it's that
that I
whole
think
look
people.
at the snake thing, right?
Huh?
It's the whole look at the snake thing.
Well,
you know, take a
the
leap.
snake on the pole, I think, has more to do with Christ on the tree.
Right, but
But there,
it's the
but
whole thing of,
but that event made mercy possible, right?
right.
Which Alma 42 talks a lot about. So, but let's go back to. I got my JST up, so it's 2 Samuel.
Okay, I've got 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, so we might not get done.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just nice that you come as you can. Um,
I do my best.
oh,
I know that I haven't, I mean, this is the first time I've been good in what, over a month? Okay,
yeah.
so what are we
Well,
looking
actually, it looks so. This is that same verse
at? Okay,
in the Kindle, and the reason I went here is because the bold Joseph Smith added.
okay,
We don't have an example here, and we may have it on these other two if we get time to look at those. But the strikeouts is what Joseph Smith removed.
okay.
And I think that's helpful to get a better idea what's going on.
So,
But it looks like I did copy it
yeah, you
correctly.
copied it pretty well. So, um, it, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like basically God has not given up on you. Therefore, you don't have to die.
That's how I would take it, but I think the way that it's worded is probably a Hebrew idiom, because the way it's worded
Probably because
sounds
it's,
opposite of that. But with what I know what happened, that makes sense, right? Um, and so I think there's a Hebrew idiom
well,
embedded
I
in that I'm not aware
I,
of right now.
I think the whole put away, the term put away, is similar to putting away a wife. I mean, what do you do
Right.
with a wife? When you put away a wife, you're
You're
divorcing
sending them
her.
away. Right, right.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
completely agree with that. In fact, if you want, I watched a documentary from a Messianic Jew recently that really does really good at explaining that. I can give you the link to if you want.
um, could you
Yeah.
like message it to me in Facebook?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Um,
Anyway, I actually need to go. Yep, I gotta go.
no,
But
okay.
thank
But
you.
anyways, I do think you're right. That put away. In fact, that reminds me of that teaching I just saw recently. So I'm surprised I didn't catch on to it. But yes, I think that is what it's talking about. It's not putting away him. It's giving, he didn't give up on him, right?
Right.
That's kind of what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. All right.